It's over 1,000 worlds. Because the choice of where to go, it's not ours, it's yours. From the rocks at your feet, to the mountains in the distance, to the people and creatures that live in these worlds.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Should You Play, our video solution to your gaming curiosity. Bethesda's space RPG Starfield has been out for just over a year now, and it is still proving to be one of the most divisive games in recent history.
We were promised a lot by Bethesda, and today we wanted to look at the game in its current state, following a wealth of updates and the inclusion of mod support. Most recently, the introduction of the Rev 8 land vehicle, and we want to let you know if Starfield is worth your time.
There are already lots of Starfield related videos out there, some arguing it's a masterpiece and others criticising its flaws, so we think it's about time we put in our cents worth. Since I'm an old school Bethesda fan and Starfield is the first and only Bethesda game Heather will likely ever play, we can definitely provide a unique perspective.
Me and Craig do have very different opinions when it comes to Starfield, and there's a lot to cover in this video, so it's going to be longer than our usual Should You Play review. So let's start by talking about the first thing you do in the game after traversing the introductory mining facility, and that's create your character.
Okay, take it easy. You were out cold.
Say what you want about Starfield, but there's no denying that the character customization in this game is Bethesda's best system to date. There are a lot of options when it comes to how you want your character to look and what background and base skills you want them to have. You can choose between 40 preset faces created through scanning real life faces, and you can extensively modify them.
Once you have spent an hour cycling through the presets and customization options to create your perfect space adventurer, you get to choose from 21 different backgrounds that come with 3 starting skills. Sadly, whether you choose to be a bounty hunter, a cyberneticist, or a xenobiologist, these backgrounds don't really mean anything. Apart from minor interactions, which background you choose has little impact on the game.
Backgrounds are primarily there to determine what 3 starter skills you want to help facilitate your preferred playstyle. If you want to focus on a stealth build, then you could choose Cyberrunner as your background and start the game with skills in stealth, security and theft. If you want to talk your way out of most situations, then best to choose a diplomat with starting skills in persuasion, commerce and wellness. I think you get the idea.
You can then choose 3 of 17 traits for your character, and each comes with a perk of some kind and more often than not an attached restriction. For example, if you choose the trait Alien DNA, you start the game with increased health and oxygen, but healing and food items are not as effective. The Dream Home trait sounds cool since you get your own home, but it comes with a 125,000 credit mortgage. And you can be a homeowner in the game anyway without choosing this trait.
It's more for role-playing purposes, but this is par for the course for Bethesda since they watered down character traits since Oblivion. The perks you get for traits in Starfield aren't ever really worth it, and Bethesda knew this, evidenced by the inclusion of several ways to remove perks in the game. All in all, it's the illusion of choice here. You can't really be whoever you want to be in Starfield, but you can utilise the wide range of skills throughout the game to tailor your character build.
It's all about the skills, and there haven't been any changes to character customization or skills since launch, as far as I'm aware, and I've revisited this game every single time they have released an update, as someone who was eagerly awaiting a land vehicle all year.
Oh my god, that's it. They're reacting. Look at how it's coming together.
So, we've created our character, and now we're free to roam the stars. Eventually. First, we have to complete quite a long section on Crete that focuses on a significant aspect of a different faction's storyline, and then we have to go to New Atlantis to join Constellation whether we want to or not, following our encounter with the vision-inducing Prothean beacon. We decide we want answers, and joining up with Constellation is the only way to get answers, even though they don't really do anything except push the main narrative forward and judge your actions.
Basically, Starfield is set in the year 2330 when humans have colonised a region of space known as the Settled Systems. Naturally, humanity is far from living harmoniously amongst the stars, with several factions scattered across space, more on factions later. You enter the game as a new recruit with Argos extractors, and this is where your journey begins.
Your character discovers a mysterious artifact in the mine which grants a strange vision and renders you unconscious. You are given a ship from Barrett, the only member of research organisation Constellation who has also had an artifact linked to vision, and you set your sights on Constellation's HQ in New Atlantis to seek answers.
Welcome to Constellation.
Constellation's current main purpose is to research the nature of these mysterious artifacts, with this common goal in mind and the fact that they haven't made much progress.
About 2 years ago. Right under our noses.
They enlist your help in locating the remaining artifacts. We don't want to give away any spoilers, but one thing we will say is that the main quest is interwoven with New Game Plus and was clearly created solely to keep the players playing as long as possible. Unfortunately, one thing me and Craig agree on is that the main quest is terrible.
The main quest in Bethesda games have never truly been the main draw for me, but Starfield's is unforgivable. It makes no sense, falls flat in its execution, it's repetitive and dull, and is overall underwhelming, especially when compared to some faction questlines. The fact that mods now exist to remove a recurring event in the main questline says a lot. It's such a shame because the main storyline felt like it was leading up to something brilliant and it just never delivered.
One area that does deliver, for the most part, is the faction questlines.
The motto of the Vanguard is Supra et Ultra, above and beyond.
There are 4 main factions in the game who all have differing ideologies and goals. There's the mega corporation Ryujin Industries, where industrial espionage is central to their faction questline. Ryujin values profit above all else and is not above using nefarious means, such as advanced technology and cell infiltration to sabotage their competitors. Their questline can be fun if you have had the foresight to invest in stealth skills, and Bethesda have updated the AI involved to make their alertness more balanced.
Then there's the Crimson Fleet, who embrace chaotic space piracy and are somehow controlled by this wet wipe of a leader, Delgado. This faction questline involves going undercover at the Crimson Fleet for UC SysDef.
It's time to get down to business.
UC SysDef are focused on eliminating the Crimson Fleet and want you to report your findings back to UC SysDef Commander Tuala.
As part of the Crimson Fleet, you will join their search for the lost treasure known as Crix's Legacy. Oh, you thought you would engage in actual space pirating chaos? Nope!
Somewhere down the line, they started calling it Crix's Legacy.
This faction's questline by far has the most wasted potential. When you join the Crimson Fleet, they genuinely don't seem that intimidating at all. It comes across as such a pathetic small operation. Apart from the swift altercation you witness when you first enter their base on Space Station The Key, they seem quite innocent, albeit pesky.
Then there's the United Colonies faction, of which UC SysDef represents a naval branch dedicated to combating piracy. The UC questline is absolutely fantastic and should have been the main quest. The UC, or United Colonies, is a centralised military that has dominant political power in civilised space and are overseen by a council called MAST. The player can join the authoritarian policing branch of the faction known as the UC Vanguard, whose primary goal is the protection of UC territory across the settled systems.
The UC Vanguard questline entails the discovery of a horrifying threat to all of humanity and comes with a fantastic twist that we won't spoil here, but trust us, it's a good one. Their stance on maintaining law and order is why they are openly hostile towards the Crimson Fleet faction and opposed to the ideology coveted by the Freestar Collective. Basically, any faction opposed to law and order will find themselves in the UC's bad books.
The Freestar Collective is the second largest faction in the settled systems, committed to protecting the personal freedoms of citizens, placing emphasis on a peacekeeping defensive military code. It is due to these principles that they are direct rivals of the United Colonies, whose relationship is fragile at best following conflicts that took place prior to the events of Starfield.
The Freestar faction questline lets the player become a Freestar Ranger, basically a space cowboy in the most watered down sense, investigating claims of extortion that turns into a macro conspiracy. That's the 4 main factions, but there are some other factions in the game that you can't join for some reason. There's the Great Serpent worshipping cult of House Faroon, the Runners of the Red Mile, List, the Religious Order of Sanctum Universum, the Ecliptic Mercenaries or Marauders known as Spacers, and many more.
The factions are interesting, but there's not enough variety here. You can't necessarily choose to do an evil playthrough where you only join the bad factions. Not only would this punish the player in several ways, but Constellation will have a thing or two to say about your decisions. Again, it's the illusion of choice, and you don't really get overwhelming rewards either, which are enduring issues in Starfield.
There are, of course, lots of side quests to partake in and bounty hunts, some of which are very fun and interesting. For example, the Mantis side quest and the Trackers Alliance faction has now been added with the latest update.
Prompt. Good trait for a tracker. Anyhow, we can talk about punctuality or we can get down to business.
I can't stand what you did. It goes against everything Constellation stands for, what I stand for.
When it comes to the main characters and their subplots, I can't think of a single one that I like. Constellation's leader Sarah is the biggest Karen in all of gaming, and I hate her so much.
There's a time and a place for that sort of talk. This is definitely not one of them.
Sam initially comes across as laid back, but is surprisingly judgmental, considering he's supposed to be a rogue space cowboy who values the personal freedom of his Freestar faction. Plus, he comes with a very annoying kid called Cora, who you will quickly want to jettison. God bless the creator of the Shut Up Cora mod.
Then there's Barrett, who is well known for being a loose cannon, but we see no evidence of this, and the writer of his character wanted him to be a smooth operator. The coolest dude in the settled systems, but this doesn't land very well at all. Andrea, Lynn, Gideon, Hella, all two-dimensional and boring. Do you know who was intriguing from the moment we speak to him at the viewport? The Hunter. But his identity was a big disappointment too.
The suit usually scares them off.
There are a lot of optional crew members that you can recruit for your ship and outposts, and each come with specific skills and a hefty recruitment fee. Crew can be recruited from bars in major settlements, such as the Astral Lounge in Neon and the Viewport Bar in New Atlantis. To be honest, I tend to travel alone when possible, instead of having my companion constantly hassle me with random gifts. The least annoying companion is Vasco, and he's a robot.
Also, why is there no pirate companion, and why do all companions unanimously agree or disagree with my decisions and actions? There is absolutely no difference of opinion between them. Again, the illusion of choice.
Next, let's talk about cities and navigation. One of the main issues with Starfield when it was released was the complete lack of maps. Thankfully, they have added city maps since and have given surface maps much more detail. This does make a difference, but it's still hard to navigate through cities like New Atlantis and get your bearings. The map system is multi-layered. Firstly, there's a star system map, which is an overview of all the planets in the settled systems. Craig doesn't like the star system map because its layout makes it very difficult to judge distance, and I concur.
Basically, a star system might look close to your current system, but if you tilt the map slightly, you will see that it is actually very far away, and your grav drive or fuel might not allow a jump that far, which can be frustrating. It's strange that you can't rotate the star system 360 degrees to gain a clearer view of distance. Anyways, if you want to view all the planets and moons contained within a specific system, then you can zoom in to see the galaxy map.
From here, you can then zoom in on a single moon or planet to view any existing points of interest, scan it to view available resources, and choose somewhere to land. I like the galaxy maps. It's what you would expect to see in a game such as this. Once you have landed on a planet, there is a surface map you can view which shows the layout of whatever biome you chose to land in.
Sadly, Starfield is anything but open space. You can't freely fly from planet to planet or run in a straight line around a planet and seamlessly end up where you started. The game doesn't work like that. It's very segmented. To be honest, Bethesda never really stated that Starfield was going to be open space, but the way they spoke about it implied an open space RPG that would allow players to freely roam around space and manually land on planets, flying down through a planet's atmosphere, or at least be able to fly freely within a single system. Honestly, I think the reason the galaxy map looks the way it does is because Bethesda were afraid of copying Mass Effect's galaxy map, a far easier and much nicer map to look at and use.
But instead of a seamless open world RPG, we get bombarded with loading screen after loading screen, and that really breaks immersion. Grav jumping is a cool mechanic though, and it comes with a flashy animation and, like everything else, limitations, but we will get to that stuff later. We were promised 1,000 planets to explore, and in this respect Bethesda have delivered. A lot of planets and moons are uninhabited, and you will often find yourself aimlessly scanning rocky barren wastelands about 90% of the time, and continually visiting the same procedurally generated locations.
This is where the procedural generation becomes a real problem for Starfield, and a major complaint amongst players is the lack of interesting points of interest in the game. Bethesda have tried to increase diversity, and occasionally you will come across new things you haven't seen before, but for the most part you will be clearing out and looting the same bases and scanning the same things.
This can be a plus though, because you can learn the layout of bases and get the upper hand. Most planets are empty. You might come across pockets of smaller settlements, but unless you want to scan all planets, it's best to stick to the systems and planets inhabited by humans.
In terms of settlements, there are a handful of important major locations you will visit. There's New Atlantis, a futuristic looking metropolis on the planet Jemison, which is the capital of the United Colonies and is located in the Alpha Centauri system. A real life system for those of you that don't know. Here you can pick up loads of quests, join the Vanguard, explore the impoverished undercity known as the Well, and more. Then there's Aquila City, a promising western inspired gritty town that is the capital of the Freestar Collective located in the Cheyenne system, and you can even buy property here. Aquila is actually a pretty cool place. You can obviously join the Freestar Rangers, you can visit an alien zoo, see the historical sites, and learn about Sam's lineage.
If we even care.
I know, right?
Hey, Solomon Cole, that's my grandfather or something. Nobody
And my
cares,
dad's
Sam.
angry even, it's not really clear why. The next major location that is also in Freestar territory is Neon, a pleasure city on the aquatic planet Voli Alpha in the Voli system with an interesting background.
Neon was originally created by Xenofresh Fisheries as a fishing platform but was revamped into a tourist location after the discovery that the native fish emitted a substance that produced psychotropic effects. They used it to create and sell Aurora, but when the Voli system joined the Freestar Collective, Aurora was criminalised everywhere in the settled systems except for Neon. Neon is an impressive place that perfectly captures the glitz and glamour that straddles the seedy, dingy side very well.
The next major city, if you can call it that, is Cydonia, located on Mars in our very own system. Cydonia is basically a mining settlement. It's kinda boring, but it does have a robot that tells jokes.
Why did the snowman need a moist towelette? Because his arms were sticky.
There's the Crimson Fleet Star Station HQ, the Key, which is your one-stop shop for illicit goods and shifting contraband. There's a lot of other notable places to visit, such as Paradiso, Hopetown, the Red Mile, Elios, New Homestead, the Eye, and more. But those are the main places to go.
Although these locations are great, I have to be honest, I expected more cities considering that this is supposed to be the settled systems. There's like 5 major cities and maybe 20 minor locations to explore across the 1,000+ planets we were promised. Why have over 1,000 empty planets? Sometimes I do really enjoy scanning planets, but even the introduction of the Rev 8 land vehicle cannot solve this glaring issue caused by relying too much on procedural generation. 90% of the game is boring because it's empty.
One thing that really annoys me is the lack of civilized alien life and settlements. It would have been so awesome to discover new life forms, cultures and alternate ways of life, but all we get is alien wildlife of limited diversity. Why are there only humans in this game? You can't make a huge space exploration game like this and completely exclude alien life forms whilst introducing mystical or supernatural elements featured in the main story. Mass Effect did this and it did it much better.
Moving on, when it comes to skills and levelling up in Starfield, it follows the same approach as Skyrim and Fallout 4. Every time you level up, you gain a perk that you can spend on one of the skills in one of the 5 skill trees available to you: combat, physical, science, tech, and social. However, Starfield does something a little different when it comes to how skills are made available to you.
Each skill tree category contains 4 tiered rows of skills. The skills contained in the first top row can be unlocked straight away when you gain a skill point or perk. The subsequent rows unlock downwards once you have invested enough skills in that particular skill branch, and this repeats until you can access the final line or tier on that particular branch.
Each individual skill has 4 ranks, which are only unlocked once the attached skill challenge has been completed, and this applies to every skill. I don't know why you are presented with barriers all the time, and I honestly don't know why the skill challenges exist at all. It just makes things unnecessarily difficult. Thankfully, there's a new mod that can remove these skill challenges.
It is not hard to level up in this game by surveying planets, discovering locations, fighting enemies, and completing quests, and with no level cap you could eventually unlock all skill rows and ranks. But this game is extremely stingy with the amount of XP you get. I'm level 60 in my playthrough and I've barely unlocked any skills. It's such a grind.
To me, the skill system feels all wrong. The categories and layout is messed up. I feel like certain skills are in the wrong skill trees and sometimes there's no natural skill progression within the skills tiers. I can't even sufficiently articulate what I mean. Like, why is astrodynamics, geology, spacesuit design, weapon engineering, zoology, astrophysics, outpost engineering, and planetary habitation all lumped together under the science skill tree? That makes absolutely no logical sense to me. Surely, everything to do with your ship and what you can do inside your ship should all be under the same skill tree, such as astrodynamics, astrophysics, ship shield systems, piloting, targeting control systems, starship design and engineering and more.
I completely agree. The skills are a real shit show. If you want to be a sharpshooter or sniper, then you have to invest skill points in skills you don't want or need in the above tiers of that category just to reach the aforementioned skills. You have to invest skills in pistols and shotguns before you can unlock rifle certification, even though rifles are available straight away. The skills definitely need an overhaul, and I also feel that the outpost stuff should be an entirely separate thing. You can easily get through the entire game without using outpost building at all. There's a wide variety of skills, but most of them are quite superfluous. Furthermore, there is no way to redistribute your skill points in Starfield, so what you choose is what you are stuck with.
Even in New Game Plus. Shipbuilding and space combat is absolutely fantastic in this game in my opinion. I'm sure we have all seen the amazing ship creations online, and I only wish that I had that level of creativity. Even with mods enabled, I can only create the most basic looking generic ships, despite being given everything I need to create something badass.
Eventually, you're not given access to the good stuff until you unlock them. Everywhere you turn in Starfield, you hit another pointless barrier that feels like it was intended to be a paywall, but they knew they wouldn't get away with it. You can only pilot certain class ships unless you max out your piloting skill. You can only use these superior ship models if you max out your starship design skill. Other than that, and the fact that you can't save mid-build to return later, the ship design is actually really good.
The space combat can at first feel lackluster, but once you attach superior weapon parts and get to grips with the targeting control system, you will feel the difference and space combat becomes exciting and strategic. I really enjoy outfitting my ship with lots of missiles, targeting enemy ships' engines and then boarding the ship to take out the crew and add their ship to my fleet to either sell or customise.
The ship allocation system is an interesting mechanic that allows you to power up different aspects of the ship. If you don't intend to grav jump out of a combat situation, then you can reallocate all power assigned to the grav drive and allocate it to your shield system or weapons power. If you can remain calm enough in the chaos of space combat scenarios, you can really take advantage of this system.
Since launch, there have been quite a few changes, the best of which is the ability to decorate the internal of your ship. Furthermore, since Creations launched, there has been an influx of ship-related mods that add different ship modules, including glowing modules for more of a sci-fi feel.
Outpost building is perhaps the most unexplored mechanic in Starfield by both of us here at Amalgamingle, and the main reason is that one does not simply create supply lines. For me, the main purpose of Outposts is to store contraband until I can flog it. I do understand the potential of Outposts, but I just can't implement it.
You can mine for natural resources and store them in containers, and even direct the flow of resources elsewhere if your containers get full, or you want to transfer resources to another location. If you are in this for the long haul, then outposts are a must.
To be honest, neither one of us have really gotten into outpost building, and we honestly haven't felt the need to either. It's an optional extra that I think is meant for a very specific type of gamer.
Since the rollout of additional gameplay settings and creation mods, having an outpost seems even more undermined and pointless. There's a mod that can literally give you unlimited resources. And Bethesda have now given us a setting that can increase your carry weight and your ship's cargo capacity. And there's a mod that removes the punishment for making the game easier.
Obviously, it's natural to compare the outpost building to that of Fallout 4's, and whilst the two of them share the same basic elements, Starfield's systems are far too complicated. And I think part of that is down to it being procedurally generated and allowing you to pick a specific spot, rather than a predetermined perimeter like in Fallout 4. Just hooking up electricity in Starfield requires so much busy work, it's just not worth it, when there is other things to see and do in the game.
In terms of home ownership, apart from the home you can get by choosing the Dream Home character trait, which is an impressive home, there are several other properties you can buy in Starfield. There's a single-storey house and a smaller apartment in Aquila, an apartment in Neon, and properties in New Atlantis. All of these homes can be outfitted with utilities such as research stations and workbenches, storage solutions, display units, basic furniture and decorations. Just like the outposts, these are there for a specific player who wants to display the best gear and experience all that the game has to offer.
Unlike previous Bethesda games where I would display weapons, armour and other trinkets, I felt absolutely no inclination to do that in Starfield. There's also no way to personalise your home. You can't change the colour of the walls or furniture no matter how much you customise it, and it always feels like just another house you've already visited.
Good fortune in your new home.
When the Rev 8 announcement dropped with the surprise that it was being launched immediately, I was so excited. I'd been waiting so long for a land vehicle. All in all, the vehicle itself is great. It allows players to zoom across the landscape and utilise the player's boost pack. The Rev 8 has lived up to my expectations. It feels in control and capable. It can handle rough terrain very well and can scale steep rock faces, but it does go a bit mental under certain conditions.
If you haven't got it yet, then head to any ship services technician to purchase the Rev 8 and it will be deployed next to the ship whenever you land. The Rev 8 is comparable to the Mako in Mass Effect, the Type D vehicle in Final Fantasy XV, or so I'm told, and driving the Warthog in Halo. Personally, I think this land vehicle creates more problems than it solves. It can't handle anything but flat terrain and a normal atmosphere, introduce ice, rocks, low gravity or other, and the car loses its marbles, becoming uncontrollable.
I like the fact that you can harvest, scan and engage in combat without having to exit the vehicle. Also, you don't take damage whilst inside the car. I tried to intentionally destroy the Rev 8, but it doesn't seem possible. You can modify the colour of your vehicle, but it doesn't look like it can be upgraded or modified in the same way your ship can be. Instead, the Rev 8's capabilities is tied to your own skill set. I hoped that the introduction of the land vehicle would remove a lot of the monotony of planetary scanning and ground traversal, but no number of superfluous additions can solve Starfield's enduring problems. So, should you play Starfield? If you like sci-fi games and want an excellent space exploration game with factions, an interesting main story, impactful decisions with consequences, brilliant combat and more, then go and play The Outer Worlds, which is superior in almost every way. For the first time in our Should You Play video's history, we both agree that Starfield is simply not worth the amount of time it demands from you.
Todd Howard has stated many times that he wants people to be playing Starfield for 10 years, which takes it past this current console's generation cycle and into the next one. But Starfield is fundamentally broken. Maybe if you can forgive Bethesda for their failings, you can revisit Starfield in a few years once it's done a No Man's Sky revamp, but until then there are better executed space games out there, and just all round better RPGs. Heather's already mentioned The Outer Worlds, but then of course there's Mass Effect, and other Bethesda games like Fallout and Skyrim are much better and much more complete games. If you do want to ignore us and play it anyway, then there are a lot of mods out there that can remove a lot of the negative things we have highlighted.
To be honest, Skyrim wasn't fantastic when it was first released either. There have been a wealth of updates for that game as well, and Bethesda have really managed to turn it around. Let's hope that they manage to do the same thing with Starfield.
It's a good point, but Skyrim got glowing reviews. It came out in 2011 as well. It hasn't had 15 years of... also, 20 years in the making. Throw that in there somewhere.
That doesn't mean they've been developing the game for 20 years.
It was first announced in 2018, meaning it was already in pre-production at least in 2018. 20 years in the making is not some marketing crap. I will not forgive them.
I am not defending them whatsoever. This game is broken. There's so many mechanics that are fighting against each other in this game. It's trying to be a jack of all trades, and you know what they say, a jack of all trades is a master of none. Like I said earlier in this video, I've tried to stay positive when it comes to Starfield, because I can see the potential. The idea of a huge sprawling space exploration game sounds fantastic, but Starfield isn't the way forward. The game tries to dip its toes in a lot of different mechanics, which ultimately waters them down, and the empty universe and illusion of choice are Starfield's problems that we simply don't think can be solved with updates.
Anyway, let us know what you make of Starfield in the comments below, and feel free to debate, because everyone is entitled to their opinions. I've been Craig.
And I've been Heather.
This is Amalgamingle, and thanks for watching.